We built btwb to support independent gyms. These gym owners have unique journeys that led them to create incredible communities in their towns or cities all around the world. Spotlight is going to help tell these stories and celebrate these people. All right, Luke, man, I appreciate you making some time this morning to chat with me about your gym.
I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on here and excited to see where this goes and talking about fitness and talking about, the gym itself. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, man. Well, let people know what's the name of your gym and where are you located?
We're located in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. So the name of our gym is Limitless Lab, and it has a huge undertone of what that is behind it. But yeah, that's where we are. Grand Rapids, Minnesota, not Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you look on the map, we're basically, knocking on the doorstep of Canada. We're about 2.5 hours south of the border. So we're up here.
Is it as cold in that state as everybody says?
Dude, it is. Yes. Yeah, it is exactly as cold as you think it is. We lived down in, like, the Twin Cities area for a long time, my wife and I, and we had this moment. We have 4 kids, and we had, done well, and we had this moment where, like, "Okay, do we move?" And we like the warmth. We're like, "Do we go we go to Florida?" This is, like, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, "Or do we go back home?" Is where my wife's from.
Mm.
And, so for the kids and being around relatives, we chose back home. But I'll tell you what, it's, what is it, March now? January, February. Every once in a while, we look at each other. I was like, good choice. So solid.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, we have that same choice because we live just outside of Seattle, and it is as gray and rainy most of the year as the stereotypes would lead you to believe. If you come here at the right time of the year, it will trick you into thinking that it's just beautiful because we get so much rain that when it's nice out, everything's green and lush and there's elevate. You're like, this is amazing. You're like, don't fall for it. It
That's
almost
my
tricked
that's
you.
my joke here. It's like has such a like Norwegian heritage in Minnesota. And I was like, they got fooled. They came over here in the summer and they were like, this is the complete opposite of where for this beautiful. And then
This is
winter came and
amazing.
goes, it's the exact same, just so you know.
Man,
But
I gotta tell you, so I talk to a lot of people as part of my job, which is one of the favorite things that I do because everyone's got a different backstory and you learn something from them. And when you send me just some backstory about what you've got going on before our chat today, one of the things you've got that I've never spoken to somebody before is you owned an Anytime Fitness, you said, for 13 years.
mhm,
I've
yep.
never spoken to somebody like that. That's so, I mean, that's to me is fascinating from um, you know, as an outsider. So I'm just curious to hear if I'm on track, off track. Like, I would seem to think that the quote unquote typical clientele in the average fitness is different than the typical clientele and how they train, whether it's aesthetics versus functional performance. The business models seem very different. The gear needed seems very different. Like two looks like totally different worlds from the outside. You've been in both,
Mhm.
for most of us haven't. Can you walk us through what was one business model or training environment all about, and what's the other one all about? And are they as different as they seem?
Yeah, and I probably can then probably explain how the meshing of it kind of works,
Okay.
like just overall. So yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with that franchise, it's great. I think it's still to this day one of the biggest fitness franchises actually globally. If you were to like Google, I want to own a fitness franchise, it's probably still up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's originated out of Minnesota, and so like the second experimental version of it was in the same town I went to college in. So I
Okay.
went to school, I was just always in sports, always athletic, always wanted to do stuff. And they opened this thing. And if you're like me when we were in college, if you studied the studied at night, like the library would close at midnight, no gym was open, but you're
Mm.
up. And so I was like, well, what do you do? And somebody came to me one day and was like, hey, there's this thing that's open 24 hours. And it was just little. And I was like, who cares? I can get in, get a workout in at midnight and go home, go to bed at 1:30. It was awesome. Well, and then I'm a business major. So at the time, I'm like, aspirations where I want to own my own business, but at some point, I'm probably gonna end up in corporate America, work my way up. That's the traditional mindset of it all, right? And I remember being in this franchise and being like, it was small. I think it was like 2,000 square feet. And I was like, wait, you just give people a key card and they come in here and can work out. I mean, it's actually very smart. And so right out of college, I mean, I just was lucky enough and fortunate enough, grateful enough to connect with the right people. I working at a couple, designing a couple. By the time I was 24, partnered up with, somebody that I got it. I basically had a lot of people come to me and be like, "Hey, we'd love to partner with you." And
Okay.
out of college is not necessarily where you're in a financial windfall to be doing that, but I partnered with the right people. It's how I ended up in the town actually that we're in right now. It was like this is one of the areas that was wide open, essentially a secluded community with depending on how you look at it, maybe 20,000, not huge, but 20 to 40,000 people coming through, but nothing within 30 miles. So you're not competing with other things like you would in a bigger city where I was from in the Twin Cities area. So I was like, this is great. And, did what I was doing. I was doing natural bodybuilding. I was playing in the jujitsu mixed martial arts space for a decade. But see, doing that, which was really interesting, I didn't just own the franchise as I think some franchise owners do, where it's like, hey, it's open 24 hours. I can get somebody at the desk. People can come and go, and I'm not really in here. I came into
Hmm.
it because I love training clients. And so I was actually in the gym 40 hours doing one-on-one training, traditional training, which you would consider. The way that I would like to train people was high volume. I was doing a lot of supersets, whether I was training somebody for bodybuilding or to play football or to play hockey or grapple or whatever, we needed to attach that energy system, the same. So I thought my training methodology was like that. What also came from that was because I was there all the time and I was on the floor interacting with our basically our community and our base of clientele. We actually grew to, I think at one point in that small community, I had up to 1,300 members coming in and out of there. And what came out
1,300
of it.
members coming in and out of a 2,000 square foot facility.
Now it was 4,000 at one point, and then we moved and I had it up to about six.
Okay, but
Um,
still 13. Okay, that's interesting. Wow.
yeah, and still had that same. You're still going to have the people are going to use the elliptical, use the tread. But what I think the beauty of it was, and also the beauty of the community we're in, is that because I was in there interacting with the clientele, you created the community, right?
Hmm.
Moved. I had it for 13 years. I actually moved after I had it for 8. Went back to like the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and at that time, now again, I'm playing or dabbling with CrossFit, and you and I chatted previously. I was like, I would see stuff, and I just couldn't understand it. I was like, I'd look at the main site, and it was just like, how are you getting a workout? How do you look like Rich Froning and do what you're doing, and then go on the website and it's shoulder press 1111 on the main site. I'm like, there's no way that this is what it is. So I still own the franchise. I moved to this other town, and I have this innate ability to walk into really good places without ever researching them. Some people will do that, and I walked into at the time, which was CrossFit White Bear, and they had a plethora of really good athletes, and Andrea Nisler was one of them that was in there as well. And so I walk into these 5, 6, 7, 8 people, and I'm an athlete, and I'm getting my butt kicked.
Sure,
Like,
right.
just, and I'm just irritated. Like every CrossFitter that's coming into it, irritated. I always tell our clients, there's going to be 5 to 10 things in your list you're always irritated about. So it was, handstand push-ups, double unders, trying to get a muscle up. Can I do butterfly pull-ups, all this stuff? But the athletic side of me was like, I was so intrigued by it because it irritated the hell out of me. But then I actually saw what CrossFit was like from the community and being in there.
Mhm.
And the similarities between the two, if I can answer that question, was we had, even though it was a franchise, we had created this community base. And now I found this other thing that had the same community, but probably more the methodology of how I would want to train or how I'd want to train with somebody.
I
So yeah, on paper, they look completely different. It just happens to be the way that I like to train, or I like to train with people, or the way that I would work with people. The way that I was doing it in both was kind of similar. Um, and then I just, over the last 10, 12 years, fell in love with the idea of being in a box that was, and I'm worried about ellipticals and treadmills and, throw some chalk on the floor and drop some weights too.
So it sounds like, if I'm reading this correctly, maybe you were the unique figure because it sounds like maybe you ran an Anytime Fitness not how it typically would be run, that somebody's on the floor 40 hours a week, creating a community like, and maybe I had a misunderstanding of it. I thought it was more transactional, if you will, that I might come in by myself. I might interact with nobody, just hang out on my headphones or whatever. Or I
Mhm.
might bring my buddy in. That's my community of one, but I'm not necessarily in a community. I do my business, I go home, and it's more transactional and
Right.
disconnected. Is that is what I'm saying they're more the typical way, and what you did was more atypical?
I would think the way that you would envision it is probably what you'd see at a more traditional gym like that, right? A box
Gotcha, okay.
gym, a franchise gym like that, probably. I just was, I don't want to step in this thing like, yeah, I'm the unique linchpin to this whole thing, but I think the thing I enjoyed the most about it was interacting with people all the time, trying to create this safe, because working out's scary for people, right? Just in general. So to be on the floor and teach somebody something that I love, that it was like it could be this great thing that could springboard into your life as a husband or a wife or whatever.
Right.
I just was in there all the time, and I think what happened was then we started to get a culture of people that was just, it just, the ripple effect was different.
So having that part of your past, been working out your whole life, you've got a love of physical culture. Now you walk into CrossFit White Bear and you see the methodology, you start to understand it a bit more. You see the community feel there. Did that springboard you into wanting to start Limitless Lab?
I listen. This is funny because this I had not was this was not on the radar whatsoever. So don't want to go too long, but we were in the Twin Cities area. My wife and I were down there together for about a better part of 10 years, and it's selfish. I always want to start with like it's what's a part of me working out. It's my therapy. It's anybody who loves it, that's what you do, right? And it always happens that somebody wants to come and do it. And so at some point, as we were having kids and stuff pre-COVID, right around 2018, it was like we have 4 kids. I think we had a third and our fourth on the way. I couldn't commit to being like, I'm gonna drive 30 minutes to get to a gym. I'm gonna
Mhm.
get in there and do whatever. Now, if you've been in there, there's chit chat afterwards, and then another 30 minutes after. Well, now we're a 2-hour scenario going on, and we own businesses and we have these kids, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna take care. I can program. I know how to do all that stuff. I've been training forever. I'll just do it in my garage and get my workout in an hour. And it's a lot more conducive to our schedule. And so that's what it was for, probably a couple of years. And what happened was we moved back up to this Grand Rapids area. I got all my equipment in my gym for me. Well, now we're around family and pre-existing clientele and friends. So now I have
Mhm.
brothers-in-laws coming over in our garage. I have,
Still got a crew.
yeah, the occasional friend that wants to come over. And so how this all started was like, listen, I'll get a little space. We'll get it out of my house so we don't have people just lingering all the time. And I'll charge enough that basically pays for whatever I'm renting and what the equipment that I buy.
Right.
And that lasted. And I was like, honestly, I wanted to gear it towards professional men that want to drop their kids off, want to pick them up, but could sneak out at noon or 1, work out same time I do, and then leave.
Mhm.
And that lasted about a week. And the next thing you know, like my wife CrossFits, and she's like, "Well, can we have some ladies go?" So the joke was it started out like that, and then everybody called it the speakeasy because there was no marketing, no one knew where it was. It was only word of mouth. And so that was just over 2 years ago in January was 2023. And here we are today with 6 classes a day, with 125 plus members and all that stuff, just like you'd see it grow. And it was, and honestly, we just built a website in the last 3 months. It was
That's
nothing.
awesome.
It was never meant to be that way. And then the methodology behind like what's the Limitless Lab is it's honestly it's for me inside those walls, it's a personal development factory, right? So no matter how much you want to work out and get in shape, it's what I talked about, the ripple effect in your life. So I don't care if you're 65, I don't care if you're 40, whatever you think you're done or what could do, it is limitless. And so that's where that
Mm.
kind of that thought process, the name came from. It wasn't just a cool thing for the shirt. It was, something that actually breathes beyond what's going on inside of there too.
Very cool. Well, for somebody who, maybe this is, again, since you're not exactly putting out any serious advertising, like you're saying, fair to say that most people outside your local community are probably unfamiliar with, but maybe, we're a big connected world. Somebody sees this, they know somebody in your town, like, oh yeah, I know so and so there, and then maybe they want to check it out. Like, how would you describe for somebody who hasn't been there the vibe of your gym, the community? Is it mostly people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Like, just give me a sense of what you guys have there. If I was to walk through the door and experience it for myself.
Now, I would say you can find us now. Now there is a website. Now there is Facebook. Now there is Instagram, Limitless Lab GR, and same with the website. But again, if you've never been in CrossFit, and I love every time you go, and there's a lot of stuff out there right now, right?
What now?
A lot of stuff out there now with CrossFit, which
Mm.
in the conversations inside our gym a lot. And I'm like, I think there's a lot of things going on from a high level corporate level, from an elite athlete level, But the methodology in CrossFit, anytime you're inside the four walls of a box somewhere, you can find out exactly what it's like. And so inside of there, I do think it's so great. You could have, a 67-year-old retiree right next to, I can have a D1 hockey player doing the same program. However, they're doing it to their own skill ability and their own thing. And but yet that's what breeds this community. And I think that, we probably, have a little more of the, I'd probably say upper 20s to mid 40s is probably the majority of the population, right? Like the 25 to 45-ish. But I do
Mhm.
have people that are in their 60s. And then what we've done in the last couple of years, it's a very big sports conscious community. We've been gearing to, it's a hockey community. So now we've had high school athletes and programs coming through there. But on a day-to-day basis, you're going to walk in and see a plethora of business owners for a high school kid. And I think that that's really what's really great about the community, that you can fit in. And we have something for everybody. Doesn't matter if you have an ailment or a shoulder that
Mm.
needs to be redone down the road, or you're tip top shape. We can we can make something work for you.
And how do people find out about your gym? How do you get new members?
I mean, like I said, it was word of mouth, but now we have, we do have social media gear and putting stuff out. They can come and try a class through our website. We connect through that. So I always have somebody come try it out, because that's always the thing. Let's get you in the door, get those nerves out of there. Let us go through the process of what it's like, because I want you in there on the floor and you can be a part of that community. So yeah, they're able to reach out through our website or through Instagram or Facebook, and ask to come try a class, and then we set that up for them and take them through a class with everybody else. So they're not on their own. As I've been a part of some where you have to go to a beginner's class, or you have to go to, a separate little thing all by yourself. And then if you get through that, then you can come into, like I was joking around, come to Gen Pop. I like to have them in right away, so we don't have layers of anxiety. You can just get it over with right away, and we can make it welcoming for you.
It sounds like you got a lot going on. You got 4 kids. Sounds like you like to dabble in various businesses. You just probably don't have just free time falling out of your ears. What made you make the decision for the BTWB all-in-one for your gym?
When it came out, I think we were one of the first people to reach out when BTWB was putting this out there. And I've had other platforms that were, as we ramped up beyond the speakeasy, and this is this little thing, I'm like, okay, I need to have some.
Right.
We had a billing platform, but then outside of that, we're in a Mayhem affiliate. I like the programming. I've programmed for years, but I wanted to gear it, something a little bit more robust and take that off my plate too. And that now the all-in-one platform allows me to do all the billing, take care of all of that, integrate all of the programming, and I still adjust quite a few of those things. But then the back end platform for programming is actually unbelievable. For programming stuff for 20 years and having the endless amount of Google Drive sheets, and for having
Mhm.
to have the platform in the background to be able to program. And then on top of that, to have an app that is also geared to that for scheduling, for them to see the workouts, to track their stuff. So I think that there's so many different layers there that it's like I could dabble in a bunch of different platforms to try and put all that together, but let alone have it under one house. It makes it way easier.
Yes, I would. Yeah, as somebody doing it myself, I would agree with that. And I know you got a hard out, so I'm going to wrap it here for you. But let people know, self promote. Where can they, tell us again the website, if their Instagram, like they want to find out more about you and your gym and get involved. How can they do that?
They can find us at limitlesslabgr.com for the website. Otherwise, same handle on Instagram, Limitless Lab GR, and then tag that over to Facebook. And we're throwing up photos and videos. Everybody doing stuff all the time. We have some great member stories of, just people of all different walks of life. So you can be like, hey, man, maybe I fit in like so and so who goes there too. And just try to, pull the curtain back a little bit so they can see what we do, and they're allowed to take a peek, even if they're just window shopping for a little bit. And then after that, they can go ahead and join a free class and come try us out too.
And make sure they show up in February for a 5K run.
Right. With no shoes on. Right. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, uh, Luke, I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you being a part of the community, and I hope we help bring a little bit more light to you, your gym, and your members.
Thank you so much, Pat.
Of course, and for anybody out there, other gym owners, you want to learn more about the all-in-one, just go to btwb.com, and it can be your all-in-one solution for workout tracking, gym management, and billing. And we'll keep bringing you more information from real owners like Luke. So Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and I will see you online or if I decide to make my way out to the frozen tundra.
You too. Thanks, Pat.